Picture the Cold War sky, thick with tension, radar beams slicing through the clouds, and two very different aviation philosophies racing toward each other at supersonic speed. On one side, the United States Navy's F-14 Tomcat, a massive, swing-wing interceptor designed to defend carrier battle groups from annihilation. On the other, a lineup of Soviet-built jets, MiG-21s, MiG-23s, MiG-25s, and later MiG-29s, each built with a different idea of how air combat should be fought. This is not just a comparison of aircraft, but a clash of doctrines, technology, and strategic thinking that defined an era. The F-14 Tomcat was born from fear. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, the U.S. Navy faced a terrifying threat. Soviet long-range bombers armed with anti-ship cruise missiles capable of wiping out an entire carrier group from hundreds of kilometers away. The answer was not a small, nimble dogfighter, but a flying shield. The Tomcat was huge, powerful, and unapologetically complex. Its variable sweep wings allowed it to take off from carriers at low speed, cruise efficiently, and then sweep back for high-speed intercepts. Twin engines gave it redundancy over open ocean, and its size allowed it to carry fuel, sensors, and weapons unmatched by most fighters of its time. What truly set the F-14 apart was its radar and missile combination. The AWG-9 radar was revolutionary, capable of tracking up to 24 targets at once and engaging 6 of them simultaneously. Paired with the AIM-54 Phoenix missile, the Tomcat could destroy enemy aircraft at ranges exceeding 100 miles. This was not about close-in dogfights, it was about killing the threat before it ever got close to the fleet. In theory, a pair of Tomcats could sanitize entire sections of airspace, forcing Soviet bombers and their escorts to think twice before even approaching. Soviet-built jets approached the problem from a very different angle. Take the MiG-21, for example. Simple, light, and produced in enormous numbers, it was designed to be rugged and easy to maintain, even from rough airfields. It was fast in a straight line and deadly in the hands of a skilled pilot, but its radar and situational awareness were limited. Against an F-14, a MiG-21 would likely never even know it was being targeted until a missile was already inbound. In beyond visual range combat, the Tomcat held an overwhelming advantage. The MiG-23 was a more direct philosophical rival to the F-14. Like the Tomcat, it used variable sweep wings, but for different reasons. The MiG-23 was intended to be a versatile frontline fighter, capable of intercepting bombers and engaging fighters, but it was far smaller and less sophisticated. Its radar was improving, and it could carry radar-guided missiles, yet it lacked the sensor fusion and long-range engagement capability that defined the Tomcat. In a head-on intercept scenario, the F-14's radar would likely detect and track the MiG-23 long before the reverse was true, allowing the Tomcat to dictate the fight. Then there was the MiG-25 Foxbat, an aircraft that terrified Western intelligence when it first appeared. The MiG-25 was blisteringly fast, capable of flying at Mach 2.8 and even faster in short bursts. Built largely from stainless steel, it was designed to intercept high-altitude threats like the State Route 71 Blackbird and American bombers. In raw speed and altitude, the MiG-25 could outrun an F-14, but speed alone does not win air battles. The Foxbat's agility was limited, and its avionics were primitive compared to Western standards. If an F-14 could get a firing solution, especially from long range, the MiG-25's best defense was to run, assuming it had enough warning to do so. As the Cold War progressed, Soviet aviation began to close the gap. The MiG-29 Fulcrum represented a new generation of fighter design, emphasizing agility, close-range combat, and improved avionics. In a visual dogfight, the MiG-29 was a nightmare opponent. It was lighter, more maneuverable, and equipped with helmet-mounted sights and high-off boresight missiles, allowing it to shoot at targets far off its nose. In a close-in engagement, the F-14's size and weight became disadvantages. The Tomcat could maneuver well for its size, but against a MiG-29 in a turning fight, the odds were far more balanced, and in some cases, tilted toward the Soviet jet. However, the F-14 was never meant to fight alone or up close if it didn't have to. Its strength lay in coordination, situational awareness, and teamwork between the pilot and the radar intercept officer in the back seat. The Tomcat crew could manage radar contacts, prioritize threats, and launch missiles while still far from danger. Against Soviet-built jets operating under ground-controlled interception, the F-14 had the advantage of flexibility. It could operate independently, adapt to changing situations, and engage multiple targets without constant external guidance. Real-world encounters between the F-14 and Soviet-built jets were rare, but confrontations did happen on the edges of conflict zones. Iranian F-14s, flown by crews trained before the 1979 revolution, famously faced Iraqi aircraft during the Iran-Iraq War. Iraqi pilots flying Soviet-built MiGs reportedly learned to fear the Phoenix missile, often turning away as soon as they suspected an F-14 was nearby. Whether every claim was accurate or not, the psychological impact of the Tomcat's long-range reach was undeniable. In terms of maintenance and logistics, the contrast was stark. The F-14 was expensive, complex, and demanding. Keeping it operational required enormous resources, skilled technicians, and a steady supply of spare parts. Soviet-built jets, by comparison, were designed to be simpler and more robust, able to operate from dispersed bases with minimal support. In a prolonged, high-intensity war, sheer numbers and ease of replacement could have favored the Soviet side, even if individual aircraft were less capable. So who would win in a hypothetical showdown? The answer depends entirely on the context. In long range, beyond visual range combat over open ocean, supported by carrier battle group sensors, the F-14 Tomcat would likely dominate. Its radar, missiles, and crew coordination gave it a decisive edge. In close-range dogfights, especially against later Soviet-built jets like the MiG-29, the fight would be far more even, with agility and pilot skill playing a crucial role. And in a war of attrition, where numbers, maintenance, and logistics mattered more than individual performance, Soviet design philosophy could have proven resilient. The F-14 Tomcat was ultimately a product of its time, built to counter a specific threat in a specific strategic environment. Soviet-built jets represented a different way of thinking, one that valued simplicity, mass production, and adaptability. Neither approach was inherently superior, each was shaped by the realities and fears of the nations that built them. Today, the Tomcat is retired, and many of its Soviet rivals have been replaced or upgraded beyond recognition. But the story of the F-14 versus Soviet-built jets remains one of the most fascinating chapters in aviation history, a reminder that air combat is not just about machines, but about ideas, strategy, and the ever-present tension of a world balanced on the edge of conflict.